Everyone, this is the Beaufort County Council meeting for June 26, 2023. I am not, if you cannot tell, Joe Passaman. Joe Passaman is not here tonight. He's here with us in spirit, but he's traveling out of town, and he will not be joining us this evening. So I am left with the dubious distinction of running this meeting, and I hope that it's not a big disappointment to anybody. What I'd like to do is welcome everyone here, both in this audience and in television viewing audience, and I will call the meeting to order and ask Council Member Gerald Dawson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we thank you for your love and kindness. We thank you for all of your tender mercies. We thank you, God, for having blessed us to see this day. We ask your guidance as we go through the remainder of this day. We give you thanks for this great assembly that have gathered here this afternoon, and we pray your divine blessing upon this council as we deliberate the matters that come before us, that in the end we will make wise and prudent decisions for the benefit of the community and the entire county that we serve. We pray this prayer in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. This meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Number 4 on our agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda, and I believe that there will be some modifications made here, so I will ask, before we do that, for the clerk to take the roll call so we can ensure that everyone who should be here is in fact here.
Councilmember Tavernick?
Present.
Councilmember Reeds?
Here.
Councilmember Lawson?
Mark Lawson here.
Councilmember Howard?
Here.
Councilmember Glover?
Here.
Councilmember Dawson?
Here.
Councilmember Cunningham?
Present and online.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
Here.
Vice Chair McKellen?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So item number 4 is the approval of the agenda, and I believe there are some parties who have an interest in making some statements with regard to this agenda. Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I apologize for not being able to be there in person. Mine has to do with number 17. I'm actually looking to remove that. So with that said, I motion that we postpone item number 17 until our August 14th meeting to give staff time to research the proposed amendment thoroughly, to determine if the application is actually proposed as a zoning map amendment or simply an application to remove the property from the area designated as cultural protection overlay.
Is there a second to Mr. Cunningham's motion?
I'll second that.
All right, we'll open the matter for discussion. Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So after talking with a lot of people on council about this item, it's come to my attention as some of staff members that a lot of us aren't even quite sure what we're voting on. A lot of people think we're doing a zoning change, but it's not necessarily changing the zoning of the property, but removing it from a cultural protection overlay. And there's a lot of dispute going on if that's which one we're actually voting for. And I think it makes a big difference of which one it is and why we need clarity, because one way or another, I believe that whatever our decision may be to approve or deny, it's going to lead to some form of litigation. For that, I believe our team and staff needs to have clear and cut decisions by us on council, and I do not think we're equipped to do that unless we are fully informed. With that, a lot of things you hear is spot zoning. If this is not a change of the actual zoning, spot zoning is not an option. It's not an actual threat or litigation that can happen because we're not actually changing the zoning by upping it or downing it. We're just removing it from a cultural overlay. Now, with this property, we all know what it is. Call it Pine Island, Delumelo Road, whichever route you decide to go. There's three different things going on. One of them is what a lot of people came out saying when we were talking about the CPO originally, which should not have been about this conversation, but it was, and that is a golf course with 66 homes and an agreement with the county to reduce the density. Option number two is the 166 homes with 166 wells, septic tanks, and between 90 to 100 docks. Option number three, a lot of people aren't talking about, is whether it's a team effort between the county, conservative groups, or even the state coming together and purchasing this property. That has bonuses and negative effects to it. One of them is if the state comes in, that means it would have to be turned to a state park. A lot of people think that's a great idea, but when we're worried about traffic flow, a state park would have more traffic flow than 166 homes and the golf course. Example, Huntington Island, who has to shut down the amount of visitors are allowed in because traffic is too high and they start rerouting the traffic throughout the rest of the road. So in this—
Excuse me just a minute. Just get hold it, Logan. I know this isn't a courtroom, but I'm used to being in one, so I'm going to ask all of you to operate with some dignity, and when someone is speaking, do not interrupt them and do not make comments. This is a very simple request. It may go against your inclinations, but I'm requesting you to just stay quiet, let the person finish, and then we'll conduct the business of the people. It's rude, and I'm asking you not to do it. I can't be any more clear than that. Thank you. Sorry, Logan. You want to continue?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That leads me to my final thought. During this delay that I'm asking for the two meetings, I would ask that our council and our staff meet with the developer to see which three options are even realistic, or what we can put together to satisfy the community and the developer. I'd hate to see this go south for the community. So with that said, I would hope that we can get some type of agreement done, but everyone has asked for us to be educated on our vote, and we talk about these ideas. Until we sit down with the property owner and actually see what they're willing to do, we could come up with $50 million, and it doesn't mean the owner's willing to sell. We could tell the owner we're willing to do A, but they say, no, we're not willing to. So I think we need to have those conversations, and that is why I'm asking for postponement for this until the August 14th meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak on this matter before I do?
Can I just say something to—
Mr. Reitz, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleague, Logan Cunningham, is it possible that the community can get together with Mr. Tropiano to do that, what Logan is talking about?
Well, that's not a question you're posing to the community. You're making a statement?
Yeah, I'm going to—
Okay.
is there somebody here that will represent the community that will stand up here and say—
Listen, let me just correct where you're going here. You can make statements. You're not going to be engaging in questions and answers, Tom.
That's right.
You can say whatever is on your mind, but this is not a dialogue. It's for you to say what you want to say in the form of a statement and not a question, okay?
You get where I'm going with this. Is it possible to do that?
I'm going to shut you down again and tell you to please make a statement and stop asking questions of the community.
All right, well, let's move on, but
Anybody else have a discussion that they would like to enter into here with regard to Logan's motion? Yes, Mr. Glover, I'll get with you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to vote against the motion that's being presented because I think the community has stated their position on this, and I think delaying this will not serve to any benefit to anyone at this time. Things can happen later on. That's a whole nother story, but right now I don't see any benefit to this.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Mr. Loss?
Yes, and I actually agree with Mr. Glover that at this time, whether we decided to wait a month or 2 months, it's not going to change my feeling of how I'm going to vote on this. But I share some of Mr. Reitz's compassion, is the fact that, you know, I would love to see the community come together. I've seen what Mr. Tropiano has actually proposed, and I sometimes use analogies and I get criticized for it, but it's almost like whenever, you know, you have your son or daughter is getting married and the first person shows up, you're like, well, I don't like them, I want to get rid of them, that's not what I want. And you have an opportunity that he's coming forward and wanting to work with the community. If you turn him down, there is that possibility the next person that comes that wants to date your son or daughter, that he's not going to be asking for your permission. He's just going to go ahead and marry your son or daughter, and it's going to affect where you are. So I'd ask the community to reach out and try to come, because the property most likely will be developed at some point. So today, our vote is whether we release it from the CPO, and that's what our vote is whether we're going to release it from the CPO, and that's what we're voting on today.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Dawson, please.
I'm going to let Tab speak because I'm simply going to ask to call the question.
Oh,
Okay.
so I'm in agreement with Mr. Glover and with Mark. But my point is also, Mr. Cunningham started by saying there's confusion in the ordinance. It says rezoning. So perhaps that's what we need to address.
I'm gonna get to that.
Okay, you get to that.
Anyone else? Alice?
I'm going to vote with Mr. Larson and Ms. Tabernick and Mr. Glover. There's no need to delay this. End of my statement.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have just one simple thing to say.
Okay.
I've received some phone calls on my personal phone from people that live in St. Helena. They all seem to like what I said in the second reading, that I had felt that we had not heard from all the people in St. Helena on this issue. And they called and they said to me, this is what they said. I'm trying my notes, I'm sorry, I apologize. They said that I'm the only one up here speaking on their behalf because they work. And some of them take a bus over to Hilton Head every day, and that bus does not get back here by 5 o'clock. So they can't come in here and speak. So that's all I want to say.
Okay. Before I ask to call the question, which I will do, Mr. Dawson, I don't think that a postponement is in anyone's best interest. It was just a waste of time, and it will be 60 days, and we will come back and we will be dealing with the same issue. I do not want to put this deliberative body in a position to be a referee between the developer and the community. I do not want this deliberative body to become an advocate for the developer to the community. If the developer wants to send a message to the community, that's between the developer and the community, and if the community cooperates and the developer cooperates, that's all well and good. Today's question has to do with whether or not we're going to vote the property to stay in or exit the cultural protection overlay zone. That's our issue today. So I am opposed to this motion to postpone, and now I will call the question, and the question is, a yes vote will postpone it, and a no vote will make the question moot. Would you call the roll, please, Sarah?
Councilmember Cunningham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Tabernick.
No.
Councilmember Reitz.
No.
Councilmember Lawson.
Mark Lawson, no.
Councilmember Howard.
No.
Councilmember Glover.
No.
Councilmember Dawson.
No.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
No.
Vice Chair McEllen.
No.
The motion fails.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to the next issue that I want to address, which is to amend the agenda again. And I believe, as Mr. Cunningham said, the wording on agenda item 17 is somewhat ambiguous. The proposed ordinance now requests a zoning map amendment / rezoning request to remove 502 acres from the St. Helena Island Cultural Protection Overlay boundary. There are no zoning changes being requested. This is an ordinance proposing to change the zoning map to remove 502 acres of property containing Pine Island from the Cultural Protection Overlay Zone on St. Helena. I wish to eliminate the ambiguity in this agenda item by clarifying the wording. I am therefore seeking a motion to amend item 17 to reword this agenda item.
I will make the motion.
Thank you.
And I would propose it reads, first reading of an ordinance for a request for a zoning map amendment for 502 acres and all the numbers, located at 288 Delamo Road to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary on St. Helena Island. I think that's pretty clear.
It is pretty clear. So what we're doing is removing the language that says rezoning request and only focusing on this ordinance requesting a zoning map amendment, which will, if it's approved, keep it, we'll take it out of the overlay zone. If it fails, then it stays in the overlay zone. Are there any questions about that?
We need a second.
I second. Oh,
Okay.
no, you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Was this coordinated with our legal staff, the rewording?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question.
Call the question.
Okay, Tab, you were the maker of the motion?
So I vote no.
No, you are voting to
For the
to
rewording of
amend
it.
the,
Oh, to amend it, yes, and then we'll worry about how we vote.
Yes,
So
right.
yes, I'm voting to amend the ordinance, sorry.
okay, we're all going to get there, folks.
Yes,
We're gonna get
I
there.
vote to do the motion I made, yes.
Councilmember Councilmember Bartholomew,
Yes.
Okay, good.
Councilmember Reeds,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Mark Lawson, yes.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Glover,
Yes.
Councilmember Dawson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham,
Yes, I'm glad I can clear that up for you.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair McEllen.
Yes?
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other matters before we have a motion to approve the new agenda?
I do have a motion to remove item 5 from the consent agenda,
Okay?
which, if everybody looks, that has to do with the cooler track, because I'd like to make it number 24 and offer an amendment at that time.
Number 5, you said?
Yeah, number
Number
5
5
in
on
the
the
consent
consent
agenda is going to
agenda.
become number 20.
Oh,
It becomes 24 on the agenda as
Okay.
an amended. Yeah.
And I think it probably would be appropriate, Brian, am I correct, that she can make that motion now to amend that? Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that now?
Okay, so if you all look at the volume of things in the agenda, go all the way to the end, and you will look at the ordinance for the cooler tract. And at the very end, you will see number 5, it says EMS facility. I'll wait till you all get there. I'd like to amend it to say EMS and fire facility. I'd like to see us add a fire facility there as well. And Chief Boulware admits that that would be a prudent use of our funds to put a fire facility there. There is none that close. So again, if you look at number 5 on the ordinance, it just says EMS facility. I'm amending it to say EMS and fire facility. And then it goes on to say, agrees to use its best effort to plan and begin construction of an EMS and fire facility on the cooler tract, the property or the donated property on or before June 30th, 2028. That's my motion.
Does everybody have that in item 5 in their consent agenda? No. I don't have it.
It's at the very end of the packet. Go all, it's page
180.
180.
No, I'm talking about number 5 on the consent agenda on page 4
yeah, it's at the
of
very
our,
end.
of our,
It's on the very
of
end.
our agenda.
Last,
It's item 5, but to read the ordinance, you have to go all the way to page 180 in the packet.
Okay.
That's so you guys know we have 182 pages on this.
So you're changing the ordinance in the backup material, and on the agenda, it's reading, staying the same.
Third reading and ordinance.
I get you.
Yeah, because it's the actual ordinance we're changing. Is that
Okay.
correct? Yes.
Okay.
So
Follow that,
it's
Eric?
All the way there.
I'll second her motion.
Okay. Any further discussion on adding the fire station to that purchase?
No, we can discuss it when the motion comes up, right?
This is.
When we get to,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I
So this is
confuse
just,
everybody?
no, this is just to change the agenda.
Changing,
You're good.
correct.
Okay, no further discussion. We'll pass this without any objection. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that this motion passes. Okay, I don't believe there are any more items that need to be changed on the agenda, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you. For a second, please.
I'll second it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion about that? Hearing none, the agenda will pass without objection. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the agenda has been...
I will
Whoop, I have an
object, Mr.
objection.
Chairman.
You objecting?
Yes, sir, thank you.
What are you objecting to?
I still believe number 17 should be removed. I do not support the agenda as it is being proposed.
You don't support the... You support the change, but not the entire agenda?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, would you note Mr. Cunningham's objection? Thank you. I'm going to get to you in a minute, Mr. Greenway.
I'm good.
Okay. The next is item number 5, approval of the minutes for May 8th. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll approve the minutes without an objection. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the approval of the minutes is approved. Item number 6, Mr. Greenway, you're on,
Thank you.
which gives me a minute to recollect myself.
Yeah, you did
Oh,
that.
yeah, I know.
You did that
Fine job.
admirably.
Yeah, right.
It was awesome. First announcement tonight is that I was pleased to report to the county council that our assessor's office has completed the quadrennial reassessment that we're required to do. We have sent that to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue has accepted that reassessment. That was a rather large undertaking this time around because we had such a substantial increase in property values and all. And that, coupled with the assessable transfer of interest and all, made it a lot more difficult. So I'm very proud of our assessors team and our tax assessor for leading that effort and getting that job done for us. And having said that, our first employee to introduce this evening is from the assessor's office. I'm going to ask David to come on up now. David, it's good to see that you brought your friend with you in the audience there. You guys may recognize Tiffany, who used to be in our clerk council's office. Stand right here. This is David Gregory. He's an exemption specialist in the assessor's office. He's been with us 6.5 years. He supports the public with real property assessment needs, including telephone calls to the office, answering emails, and assisting in-person taxpayers with guidance to successfully meet the requirements of the assessor's office. He ensures that the ATI tax exemption laws and regulations are followed. He coordinates approval processes for multi-lot discounts and agricultural exemptions, and he reviews residential permits for completion processing. So once someone builds a building, of course, that has to go through a significant review to get all those improvements added to the tax roll as well. Something unique about Mr. Gregory here is that he overcame a childhood speech impediment and proved that a childhood disability does not define an individual. His determination to overcome his speech impediment allowed him to graduate from Penn State University with a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies and a minor in civic community engagement. He continues his academic journey by attending the Immaculate University's College of Graduate Studies, and after relocating to South Carolina, he has continued his studies at the University of South Carolina School of Medicine. So let's give David a round of applause.
Okay, cool. So, hello, everyone. My name is David Gregory, and thank you for this moment, and thank you for this opportunity. Every day it is amazing to work for Beaufort County, and I love it. On a given day, I work with 20 to 30 wonderful co-workers. Some are here today, all back there and all back there. And I also help assist the public every single day. I answer phone calls, just like what Eric just said. And I just want to say special thanks to my supervisors, Ebony Sanders, Milton Boswell, who's right there, and Pamela Holmes. And I am very thankful for the trust, the guidance, and the caring to help me to become the person I am today. And thank you to all my co-workers, the Beaufort County Council members, and all my Beaufort County employees, whom each and every one of you demonstrate the meaning of teamwork. It's a joy and it's an honor, and I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask Mr. Gregory, do you spell your last name with I-E or a Y?
Gregory.
R-Y.
Yeah.
So we may be related.
That's great.
How does that work?
Come on over, Gomez. It's always an honor to introduce all of our employees, but these folks that work at our detention center, what they put up with and what they have to do every day, shifts they have to work because we're shorthanded over there. It's a little bit more of an honor for me to recognize them because of the situation they've been in for the last few years. This is Gomez McKnight. He's a sergeant. He's been with us for 16 and a half years. He is responsible for the care, custody, and control of inmates, monitors inmates' behavior to mitigate crimes, escapes, and related activities, conducts routine patrol, enforces facility regulations, policies and procedures, reviews incident reports, use of force forms and disciplinary forms for accuracy, and he responds to emergency incidents and takes immediate action to correct the problem and ensures that inmate counts are accurate and all facility keys are accounted for. So he has a big role. Appreciate your service, and I appreciate the length that you have been doing that. That speaks volume for that you're committed to your position. He is a native of St. Helena Island. At an early age, he began volunteering at the Penn Center, assisting with the Penn Center experience, teaching tourists about the Gullah culture. He also helped local churches with programs and services to the community. His work at Bayview Nursing Home with elderly patients prepared and structured him for the job at the detention center. He is a valuable asset to the detention center team, showing his dedication to the job. He also loves to bake cakes and work in his garden.
Sounds good. Wow.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful to be here to receive an award today. I would like to thank my director, Colonel Grant. I also like to thank my direct supervisor, Major Robinson, my fellow supervisors, corporals, and staff. We work hard every day, and we make do with what we have, and we come together as a team. And it's very valuable to have people that's dedicated to show up to work and be on time and do what they have to do, because the job we do, we cannot do it without people being there. And I'm very thankful for my team and supporting each other. That way we can make it happen every day. So I'm very blessed, and I'm very grateful to have this position. That way I can help other people. Thank you.
One final thing this evening that that I'm pleased to report on, and I want to thank again the team that we have here at Beaufort County. We had a very successful first Employee Appreciation Day at Buckwalter Rec Center on Saturday. I think we probably had, numbers vary, but people were coming in throughout the day. I think it was like 350, 400 people showed up. And there are pictures of me, videos circulating on Facebook of me in a Dunkin' booth getting dunked. I went under probably, 35, 40 times. So anyway, but I will tell you all this, we're safe. None of our employees are in danger of leaving us for a career in pro baseball. I can tell you that.
Thank you, Mr. Greenway.
Thank you.
The next item we have are citizens' comments, and you can tell from the previous agendas, and you've all been here before, we try and limit that to 15 minutes. But in this instance, since I have control of the podium and the matters that we're going to be discussing today are very important, I'm not going to impose that 15-minute limit. I'm going to ask people who wish to speak, and everyone who signed up, everyone who has signed up to speak on the short-term rental program in Defusky, and everyone else who has signed up wants to talk on the CPO. So what I've decided to do here is allow 2 people from the short-term rental who are for that to speak, and 2 people who are against it to speak. With regard to the CPO, I'm going to allow 3 people who are for that to speak, and those who are against it to speak, there'll be 3 of them. So that we have 2 and 2 and 3 and 3. And I'm going to ask you to try and stay within your 3 minutes. And I know sometimes that's difficult. It's also possible that you won't have to speak that long. But if we extend past the 15 minutes tonight, I think that I and all of my colleagues will agree that this is important enough for us to extend that period. So I hope you all understand what I'm saying and that that's satisfactory to all of you. Brian, I have a question. I'd like to know with regard to items 15 and 17 that are on the agenda. Is it possible for me, since everyone is here, to pretty much talk about those 2 items? Can I move those up and go through the other ones later on? Okay. I think I'll do that so you don't have to sit here in the heat. I think what I'll do is, after the citizens' comments, I'll move item 15 forward, and then I'll move item 17 forward, and we'll track back and do the other ones, and it won't be necessary for you to stay unless you want to talk in citizens' comments at the end. Yes, Brian?
I should be more clear. You can do that with a motion to amend the order.
Okay, thank you. After the citizens' comments, I'll do that. Thank you very much. All right, for citizens' comments on the STR, there are 2 people here who are going to speak on it. Kathy Moore and Leon Coulter, and there's also Cade Yarborough and Stuart Yarborough. So Kathy Moore, would you come forward, please, with regard to the short-term rentals on Defusky Island, and have the microphone? Welcome, thank you for coming, and you have 3 minutes to make your presentation.
Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Good evening. My name is Kathy Moore, and I'm a member of the Defusky Island Council. I was co-chair of the Codes Committee during the STR fight. I was also the only council member to abstain from vote in December. The Code Committee was formed in March 2022, and later that month, we were tasked with the STR issue. In April, we held our first Code Committee meeting. This was the first of 10 community meetings held to discuss STRs. In May, the first island-wide count of STRs were taken. 33 STRs, about 30%, were counted in the historic district. On May 10th, 2022, Deb Smith attended a Codes Committee meeting with a pre-prepared motion for an interim resolution to allow all current STRs. Her pre-prepared motion was not adopted. Instead, on Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, May 29, 2022, we, the Defusky Island Council, held an emergency meeting asking for a stay of enforcement from the Beaufort County until we had more information. It was around this time that Deb Smith and Stuart Yarborough formed DAR, and their social media campaign to put pressure on the Defusky Island Council began. In June, the first of the STR surveys were taken island-wide. And contrary to what has been said here, there was no talk of the types of permitting that would be employed for STRs. The results showed that about 2/3 of the island were not opposed to STRs. Yes, there were concerns, but overall, they were not unwelcome. This left 1/3 of the island who had significant concerns or who did not want them at all. This group began to contact the Defusky Island Council privately. They were reluctant to make their opinions public due to the increasingly vicious attacks on social media. Since this faction would not speak in public, DAR used this reason as we were not supporting the island voice, and by that they meant their loud DAR vocal voice. So their social media attacks exploded, and a council member whose seat was in jeopardy this past January began a social media campaign. It cited misdeeds by the Island Council in order to bolster their own campaign. All this pressure from the vicious attacks, both from without and now from within the council, were taking its toll. There was talk of disbanding and resigning from behind the scenes. We sought advice from Beaufort County once again about what to do and how to move forward. Your staff set up a Zoom meeting with most of the Defusky Island Council members present, as well as Deb Smith and Stuart Yarborough. Mark Davis provided information on how STRs are handled.
Ms. Moore, could I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
Wrap it up, please.
Yes, I'm just about done. And
What I want you to do is finish.
Yes.
Your time has expired.
I know.
I would like you to finish your statement.
Okay.
And give the podium to someone else who's waiting.
Yep. Can I have like 2 more sentences? I know.
No, I'm
Okay.
asking you
All right, I'm
to
done.
stop.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leanne? Hello, Ms. Coulter, welcome. Happy to see you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk. Anyway, it's truly my hope that this short-term rental process can just simply move forward. As it moves forward, I think there are several items that really need to be addressed. The Daufuskie Island Council feels that the process to obtain a rental permit needs to be consistent. It needs to be clearly outlined, and the necessary documents that property owners will need to get a permit needs to be identified. It needs to be a clear process. The ability for property owners to attend Zoom meetings to get the permit needs to be allowed. And complaints regarding problem properties needs to be addressed in a timely manner. So as we have short-term rentals, the process needs to be clear and consistent. Property owners to get a permit need to be permitted to go to Zoom meetings to the zoning board, and complaints need to be handled quickly. This has to be a win-win situation for this island. It's a small island. We know everyone. We're friends and neighbors. It has to be a straightforward permit process for applicants, the ability for residents to know what's going on in their community, and to be able to make a public comment is all the residents are asking for. And I truly want to thank you for your time and energy and effort on considering this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Coulter. Stuart and Cade, do you have a preference on who goes first? Okay, Cade Yarborough, come forward, please. Thank you for coming, Cade. Look forward to your comments.
Thank you. Hello again. My name is Cade Yarborough, and I am Vice Chairman of the Daufuskie Island Council. First off, I'd like to thank the Beaufort County Council members for putting forth so much time and effort on this issue. My constituents and myself were a little disappointed that the compromise that was presented at the Daufuskie Town Hall was not considered last hearing. However, moving forward, I'm happy to, that this process is progressing in the right direction, and I'm entirely willing to help in any way I can. Based on what you presented last hearing, I was happy to hear that there will be a grandfathering in for already existing STRs, as well as a 60-day grace period for anyone who has a CO and is interested into applying for STRP without issue. I would like to see that the STRP application is user-friendly and easily acceptable or accessible for Daufuskie Islanders as possible. For example, I'd like to see concrete language that guarantees online options for completing the application and for attending any required meetings, such as the meeting with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Also, I advocate for the removal clause that gives the Zoning Board of Appeals the power to reject an application based on STR density in a neighborhood. I believe that is a form of capping, and it will not hold up in court as it is an infringement to an individual's property rights. Lastly, I hope that there is an administrative process to revoke the STRP so that people can avoid the long drawn-out court case. I hope that you find my proposed solutions useful. I think that the Beaufort County Council has done a great job on focusing their attention on this issue. I'm always willing to assist in any way I can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. Stuart Yarborough. Thank you, Stuart.
Hi, I'm Stuart Yarborough, the spokesperson for DAR. First of all, I want to thank many of you for the time that you have spent on the permitting of short-term rentals. I must tell you, after the last meeting of the Beaufort County Council, many of DAR's members are extremely concerned and have questions. I guess my first question would be, why are we continuing to move forward with a process that has clearly been rejected by the majority of the historic district that this process will affect? There are those of you that have been to at least one meeting in which 75% of those in attendance were in favor of conditional use. There are multiple surveys and workshops that have supported conditional use at a ratio of at least 2 to 1. The recent Defusky Island Council elections supported conditional use candidates at a ratio of 4 to 1. I've been told multiple times that you would support what the community wanted. Why are we not doing that? My second concern is the caps in the historic the caps on the short-term rentals in the historic district. We were told that caps were considered illegal and would not be considered by the Beaufort County Council. But the language in the special use permitting allows for Beaufort County staff to effectively cap short-term rentals in the historic district as they see fit. Basically, no criteria or guidelines have been set forth as a basis for these caps. It is at the whim of staff. I would like for those at the council to understand what they are voting for. An individual that wishes to build a home on Defusky and offset the enormous costs by short-term rentals must first invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to complete a project that could take years of construction to finally get a CO. Then apply for special use permitting that basically has no specific guidelines on the rental density issue I referenced, and no guarantee that they can plan the financial benefits that had been available when they purchased the property in pursuit of the dream of someday living there. These people are being put in a very difficult situation. My last concern would be if special use permitting is forced upon the historic district, how is it going to be implemented? No infrastructure for this process has been set up on Defusky. We have no idea who the personnel are that would implement this process or how the multiple meetings would be handled. We have heard from Beaufort County staff in this very room tell us that we have chosen to live on Defusky and we should expect the hardships that come with living there. Those that attended and viewed these comments on TV were horrified at the attitude that this process will eventually be turned over to. In closing, I heard a new process for short-term rentals is now being worked on by some members of the Beaufort County Council. From the information that has been provided about this new permitting process, we are extremely supportive, and DAR would like to offer any assistance we can in the development and implementation of this process. I would very much like to thank all of you for your time and efforts in this matter on behalf of DAR, which represents the majority of those that live on Defusky.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go now into comments with regard to the CPO. I'd like to just ask a question of people in the audience, and don't be shy. How many of you are here tonight that would support removing this property from the CPO? Would you raise your hands? Those of you who want the property to be removed from the CPO. How many of you here want the property to stay in the CPO? Yeah, okay, good. So everybody knows what everybody's thinking at the moment. I'm going to ask 6 people to come forward, 3 for and 3 against this matter. And I'm going to start with Marquis Firewall. Marquis, would you come up and tell us what you think about this?
Good afternoon. First off, let me thank all of you and thank the staff, all the boards and committees that have up to this point been loyal to the law and to listening to what the community has had to say about this whole situation. The comprehensive plan was carefully thought out, and it has been recently reaffirmed, clarified, cauterized, and must be reinforced and obeyed. The people, I respectfully remind the council that the wishes of the people of St. Helena are included in this comprehensive plan, and that we should not have to wait for another delay. Being raised in the Gullah traditions has taught me to be loving and to care about my neighbors, the land, and the waters upon which we must all share and rely. But having been exposed to the world beyond the protective creeks and rivers of the Low Country while serving my country has taught me that some things, some ideas, and some traditions will sometimes stand in the way of compromise. Chief among these things is the concept of respect. I teach my children as well as my students to always give respect so that they will always be entitled to respect, and if need be, they will be justified in demanding that they be respected. I feel that this body, that this community, and our laws that we have adopted have been disrespected and belittled. Since the opening days of the Pine Island debate, the property owners have disregarded the law and seen themselves as extraordinary exceptions. When confronted with opposition, first, it was said that we didn't know what was in our best interest. That was disrespectful. Then we didn't understand what due process was. Again, disrespectful. Next, they tried to change the rules and declared that the community and that this body didn't understand the words in our ordinance. Again, disrespectful. Now they ask that the law that governs all of us shouldn't apply to them at all. That is the crown jewel of disrespect. I ask that you end this disrespect tonight. Vote no. Do not allow them to be excluded from the CPO.
Thank you, Marquis. Next, Pat Harvey Palmer.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here and tell you and everyone in the room how I feel about the Pine Island situation. I don't feel like I am opposed to this venture since we all want what's best for St. Helena Island. I know everyone would like to see it stay the way it is now, but unfortunately that is not possible. It will be developed one way or another. If someone had come forward with $20 million in their back pocket and felt compelled to let Pine Island stay undeveloped, it would have been a miracle, but it didn't happen. Everyone can work with figures to suit their needs. So let's say that we can only have 140 homes. That would still mean approximately 280 to 400 new residents with 280 vehicles on the road. Is this in the best interest of the community? Of course, docks and access to the water were not mentioned in that report, and they're a huge benefit to a subdivision. I have lived in Del Amo on St. Helena Island for 35 years and tell everyone it's God's country, and I would hope that we can keep it that way if possible. Maybe council could consider postponing a final decision on this matter and give Mr. Tropiano the opportunity to fully disclose and explain to the community what his plans are. But would everyone listen? His website is very thorough and fully explains his intentions. After ample consideration, if council disagrees with his proposal, so be it. However, none of us can stand in the way of progress, and one way or another, Pine Island will be developed. This is not a threat. It's a fact, unless somebody, of course, has enough money to buy it. The growth in the city of Beaufort, Port Royal, and Ladies Island has not been stopped over the years. I'm sure many of you remember what life used to be like here 40 years ago. Well, probably not many of you. Lower density is important for the future of St. Helena Island. Give Mr. Tropiano the opportunity to explain in detail what his plans are for the community and the children of the island, and try to find a suitable agreement, get it in writing, and get it signed. Thank you for your patience and understanding and consideration.
Thank you very much. Ms. Gardenia Simmons White. Gardenia Simmons White. Okay. Take your time.
I do not have a script.
Good. We're speaking from the heart.
All right, I'm speaking from the heart. Okay. My name is Gardenia Simmons White. I live on St. Helena Island, 11 Ballpark Road. Now, I am here because I have been coming to all of these meetings, and I would like for people to know my feeling about the amending the
CPO,
amendment.
right.
All right. Now, number one, I will be 89 years old September 20th. I have lived, grew up on St. Helena Island. These are personal views that I'm giving. I grew up on St. Helena Island. I attended Penn School from 1st through 12th grade when it was a private school and a public school. I've gone to New York. I lived there 40 years. I'm a registered nurse with a master's degree, and when I retired in 1992, I came back home to St. Helena Island. While I was in New York, I still visited always. I saw the roads, the lights, and everything. I attended programs from Penn Center. My education was superb to the education that I received in New York. Didn't have to take any remedial courses. Now, I am saying this because part of some of the discussion were museum and all of that. We have a museum here on St. Helena Island. We don't need another one. We can coordinate our activities so we can have one central spot here. After 30 years being back home, I devote my time to St. Helena Island and also this community. We get along well together. I think expansion, my father worked hard, went fishing. Penn School taught us independency, fishing, hunting, going to school, building houses, and all of that. Now, coming back home, although I lived in Queens with my own trees, what have you, I would like to see our community evolve. We need trees. We need grass, all of that. We don't need all this traffic coming here because it is getting worse. And not only that, I need to say that in the beginning. We came from Africa on a boat, backed with, I forgot to talk a little bit longer, packed like sardines. Not only that, on St. Helena Island, we owned our land. We owned our land. We paid for it. It is no such thing as 40 acres and a mule. We had our land already. We paid our taxes. We have heirs property, and we want to preserve and keep our property. Sure, we need development. There's nothing wrong with that. But then if you do get the industrial development and all of that, then what are you going to, menial wages like we did years and years ago? What are you going to give it? Being domestic and working on the sharecropper's farm? No. We want to be a part of this community and work together and make it even better.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms.
Right now.
Tyrone Thompson? Is it Tyrone Thompson? Did I get that right? Tyrone. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here. This is the first time I've been in this situation. I am totally unprepared. I didn't realize I was going to be standing up here in front of everybody. I've only been in St. Helena for 6 years now. This is a beautiful area. Love it. With the Pine Island project, again, as it's been said, with the monies that have been allocated and spent, something is going to happen. It's got to. I can't afford to go down and buy 5 acres of land just to have sit there. And with the money that this man is, well, I can't say this man, but people, whoever he has financing with him, it's just, I'm looking at the worst of 3 evils, or I want the best of 3 evils, I should say. The traffic around here is getting horrendous. If we put 140 to 166 homes on Delamo Road and Tom Fripp, it cannot handle that, especially each vehicle leaving 2 times a day minimum. Then you have, say out of 140 homes, you have 100 homes with 2 children. That means more school buses. That means more patrol. It means the sheriff's office is going to be a little bit taxed. And speaking of taxes, that's the big thing. I'm thinking with the homes, the property taxes are going to increase even more because we have to fund our fire department, our road service, our schools. I prefer not to have anything done But I prefer to have a golf course, a elite golf course with 60 homes that might be their third, fourth, or fifth home, which will not be full-time residents. They'll be just a part-time. They'll fly in, they'll probably get bussed in, play their golf, and leave. State Park, Plan C, OMG. I work on Fripp Island. It is a major problem on Saturday when I go to work with that hunting island right there, trying to get onto the beach. And leaving work, it's bad. That's all I have. I mean, I'm just looking at the best of three evils, but something's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arnold Brown. Is Arnold here?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see you back there, Arnold. Just remember, Arnold, it's 3 minutes.
Or less.
That's right. Thank you for remembering.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to address the council and members of the community. I saw some boards over here that's going to be presented to you, and I think it's from the newspapers. And I brought a copy of the newspaper that I'm going to give everyone a copy on the council, a copy of the newspaper so you can have it. Plan A, let me say this first, that if the law is on your side, emphasize the law. If the facts are on your side, emphasize the facts. If the politics is on your side, emphasize the politics. If the community is on your side, emphasize the community. If none of these things are on your side, then pound the table, make some noise, wine and dine, and make promises in the future that you're probably not going to keep. My background is in procurement. Graduated from ROTC, University of South Carolina. I was an officer in the Marine Corps. Procurement experience for over 40 years. I was offered dinner, apartments, vacation, golf course, private memberships. You name it, I was offered. Turned it all down because I didn't want to be owned by anyone. The article that was in the newspaper does not mention the 65 houses, okay? It doesn't mention that permanent residence, 0. In other words, it's a ghost town. 65 houses and no one is living in the 65 houses. School impact, 0. That's not a negative. We love kids. I think all of us here love kids. Why are we not against kids? Traffic impact, those numbers are very subjective. They can be challenged. I looked at it, 600,000 trips. That's 5 trips per day per person. Who makes 5? Does anybody make 5 trips today per person now? I'm not doing it. Maybe 2 going to work and coming back from work. So the presentation, I think the presentation that you will see is flawed, is suspicious, and like I said, the 166 houses were not mentioned, and the 65 houses were not mentioned. And this is in the newspaper, and it's advertising, and people are being misled. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Tropiano, are you in the building? There you are. Welcome.
I don't know how you figured what side I was on. Mr. Chairman, Council, thank you. The boards are the boards. I'm sure you guys have all seen the newspaper ads. They've got all those numbers on there, but understood. My name is Elvio Tropiano. I'm the owner of Pine Island. I'm here tonight to speak about agenda item 7 now. 17, well, whatever we're changing it to. As I've stated before, and will again for the record, I'm making this request to remove my property from the CPO boundary because it will allow me and all of us to actually achieve the goals of the ordinance, which are to protect the natural and cultural resources found on St. Helena Island. Beaufort County strives to be a great place to live, work, and play. I came here over 2 years ago to not only have that experience, but to work together with people to fulfill a dream of mine, to partner with people, expand horizons, dream up possibilities, and to learn from the past, plan from the future, and build something everyone can be proud of. I agree wholeheartedly with the statement that the most important cultural resource is the people themselves. Our team has embodied it. We've continuously strived to collaborate with the community and the county. Not a single member of my team has ever said a bad word, made a malicious statement, and I'm proud to say that they have operated with dignity, and as Marquise said, I think we've operated with a high level of respect as well. Pine Island's unique. Because of its sheer size and development potential, it's going to be developed. It's my property in the United States of America. I have a right to do that just like everyone in this room does. As my team has always stated, our goal has always been to do bigger and better. We have specifically designed plans to prevent displacement of residents and a business that helps support those very efforts broadly throughout the county to fulfill cultural protection. We're providing two options, and they're not a false choice. It's a real choice, and this is a choice that most people don't get afforded the opportunity to make. And the first, by changing the boundary, it will allow me to reduce residential density by 60% forever. It aligns with the intent of the CPO, which is to prevent rural displacement and gentrification. I will reduce dock density by over 90%. It aligns with the intent of the CPO because it protects the waterways, which are designated a cultural resource. I will permanently protect over 85% of my property as open space and green space forever. This aligns with the CPO because of the ties to the natural environment. I've created a foundation that will be seeded and funded in perpetuity to support local organizations, businesses, community members in their very battle against land loss and cultural loss and displacement. In order to do these things, I need a business. And yes, that business is a golf course. A golf course can't displace people, especially on a property that's already been purchased. Most importantly, a deed-restricted golf course can never become homes, which are the very threat. It will just be open space forever. All of these are memorialized in a scaffolding or outline of a document that you guys should have in front of you that I'd love to discuss further, not just with council, but as council members have said, with members of this community, to make sure that I don't break my promises because my word is my bond. Who I am is my word. These aren't threats, they're options. And I want to be able to discuss them more broadly with everybody in a manner that allows for a pragmatic compromise. Most developers come up here and ask for more. What I'm asking for is less, far less. Willing to commit to a density of T1 nature preserve, the lowest in Beaufort County, and over 85% open space forever. Wrapping it up. If we want to set a precedent, this is one to consider. I appreciate all that you guys do for the county, and thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to further discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, just so everybody is aware, the citizen comments have finished. And I thank you all very much for participating the way you did with dignity and decorum. I'm going to tell you what we will do next, but I still intend to move items 15 and 17 to the top of the heap so you don't have to sit through the rest of these. I am going to ask for committee reports from the liaison and committee chairs, and then I'm going to ask for an approval of the consent agenda. And I will make a motion with Brian's guidance to move those items 15 and 17 to the beginning of the agenda, and we will deal with short-term rentals first, and then the CPO second, and then I'm sure there'll be a vast and mass exodus from this room, which I certainly understand, Okay, so next on the agenda, are there any liaison or committee reports? Please.
Yes, sir, thank you. I have several. The town of Port Royal last week proclaimed that the Cherry Hill property and the largest live oak in Beaufort County be protected. We have that proclamation available if anyone wants to see it. I'd like to recognize Daryl Owens. He was part of that proclamation. We really appreciate it. This will go forward to the county, and hopefully the county and the town of Port Royal will work together to preserve the landmark oak at Cherry Hill and the adjoining property. The Beaufort Memorial Board met today, their finance committee, and Wednesday their regular board meets. I found it interesting that the Express Cares in Beaufort and Okatee are doing very well, and they're also reaching out to all Medicaid patients in Beaufort County and the surrounding area to make sure their addresses are right, because a lot of things were lost or people moved during COVID. The Green Space Committee will be meeting tomorrow, and the Stormwater Board met last week. We will really miss Miss Julianne Corbin, who has done a lot of work on the stormwater. She's a stormwater engineer, and unfortunately she's moving to Florence, but she is getting married, and we will miss her.
Anyone else? Deb?
So speaking of children, I'm the liaison to the school board, and they met on the 13th. They did recognition of their Teachers of the Year and their support staff, which is always a wonderful thing to do. They recognized River Ridge Academy World and State Robotic Competition, and Whale Branch Early College High School's track team were state champions. They approved some policy changes, which are neither here nor there to the general person. They adopted biology textbooks, which are on the state-approved list, and most importantly for everybody, they put the 2023 referendum up. It's recommended, the motion was to order a referendum in the school district of Beaufort County to submit the question of whether the district will issue not to exceed general obligation bonds of $439 million and change. That's going to be their referendum in November.
Of this year?
2023. Yep.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dawson?
Yeah, at the Low Country Council of Governments Board of Directors meeting last Thursday, there was an interesting presentation made by the Carolinas Natural Gas Coalition showing the benefit of natural gas versus the government's intention and desire to go solar. So we thought that was an interesting presentation. The director of the Low Country Council of Governments, Ms. Sabrina Graham, presented the administration budget. The budget was decreased by $94,499 due to a one-time non-occurring funds of $100,000 that they received from the legislators last year. In addition to that, the Low Country Council of Government, known as LCOG, is a four-member county organization: Hampton County, Carleton County, Jasper County, and Beaufort County. And each one of those members pay member dues to the COG, and those funds are used for the COG to actually facilitate and secure grant funding. The Board of Directors voted last year to increase the membership dues from 75 cents per capita, which it has been since 2016, to 10 cents every year until it reaches $1 per capita for each county. And for us in Beaufort County, I think we will reach that $1 per capita in the year of 2027, 28, fiscal year 27, 28. And as far as the departments, I serve on the Council on Aging for the Low Country Council of Government. Ms. Tabernick serves on the Tab, you're serving on the Low Country Transportation Committee. So that is our report from the Low Country Council of Governments.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson?
Thank you. Yes, there are a couple things on the consent agenda which are pretty straightforward, but what I wanted to do was to thank our finance staff, and especially Mr. Greenway and our Deputy County Administrator, Ms. Richland, and then commend Mr. Dale Butts, who's our Assistant County Administrator for the Finance Department, and especially then Mr. Hayes Williams and Denise Christmas, and I can keep going on and on and on, that this is the first year in 5 years that I've been here that we've actually not voting on the budget the very last night or having a special meeting to vote on a budget the very last night. And it's something that has been easy for people to go look to. How many people have said now they can go see exactly where money's being spent, so the transparency is there like never before. So again, I think that we keep turning the screws and making things better for people, and people can see more, and it happens every year. So again, I just want to thank the staff for everything they've done.
Anyone down this end? Nope. Okay. Okay, thank you all. We're now going to move to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda for everyone in the room are items that have passed through committee and have been sent here to the council. They're so well known that they are grouped together as a consent item, and we pass them all at once. Item number 5 has been removed and is now item number 24 on the agenda, so we'll get to that at the end. And I did want to invite anyone who wants to stay till the very end of the meeting for citizen comments. You're more than welcome, but we have no food or drink for anybody who's here. Okay. So these are consent agenda items. So in summary, is the third reading of an ordinance to the Community Development Code to clarify connectivity standards for primary structures. Then there is the third reading for the levy of tax for school purposes. Then there's the ARPA Good Neighbor Program for the Yemassee funding request, and then agency boards and commissions appointments. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Mr. Lawson has made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will pass this motion without objection. Are there any objections? Hearing none, I would like a motion to move items 15 and 17 ahead of item number 10 on the agenda so that we may consider them before we consider the other items so that everyone can be excused who wishes to leave. May I have a motion?
So move.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? I'd like to pass that without objection. Any objections? Okay, so we will move directly into item number 15. Item number 15 on the agenda is a public hearing and a second reading of an ordinance for a text amendment to the Community Development Code, the Fusky Island Community Development Code, to amend Division B3, Section B320, and to add a new section, B330, and a new subsection, B330A, to allow the usage of short-term rentals as a special use in D2 Rural, D2RCP, D2RGH, and D3 General Neighborhood, and a permitted use in D4 Mixed Use, D5 Village Center, and D5 General Commercial. May I have a motion for that? Mr. Lawson makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Glover. And for discussion, Mr. Lawson, I'll hand it right back to you for comments.
Well, good, and I know this is what some people wanted and some people didn't want, but again, it's the best thing that we can come up with at this time. You've heard us talk about revamping and looking at the county rental program. We've learned that there's actually just one short-term rental permit, and however you get it, whether it's conditional or special use, we're finding out now that it's all special use to get the short-term rental permit. But we're going to try to make it so it is county-wide and make something that is easier to get and have the process be easier than what it's been in the past. And as we move forward, just so everyone knows, the compromise that was put in place was to make anyone that wants a rental, has a rental, or is thinking about getting a rental, be able to go and get a permit here immediately. Anyone else then would follow with a special use in a 60-day time frame. So again, I think it's something that we will continue to look at it. If it's something that the Fusky Island community in a year or so after we see how this works out, we can look at that again. But again, right now, this is something that I think everyone is comfortable with. If there's anything else, there is an amendment that I would like to make to what we have currently. But again, if anyone else wants to speak first. I
actually have a motion to amend, and it may be the same as yours, so I'll let you go first.
Motion to amend, and again, David, you can tell me what you were thinking, but if you go to, it is listed under 4B, 7 and 8. It's something that was recommended. We never did take out number 8, which is requiring an insurance certificate verifying public liability insurance of $500,000. That needs to come out. And again, that was recommended in our notes, but has never been actually taken out of the ordinance. And then also, I would like to remove number 7 that's right above that, which is again 4B7. Because again, we keep talking about making the rental process the same all over the county. And it is currently special use all over the county. But it's only in Defusky that we're requiring that a fully executed property inspection certificate completed by a licensed South Carolina home inspector be provided. And again, it's difficult to do it here on the mainland, but it's even more difficult to have that on Defusky. And again, it's something that we're not requiring that any place else in the county. And especially if we're going to be 60 days from now, it's going to be special use. All those will come before the zoning commission anyhow. So I'm asking to remove both 6 and 7 from the, or excuse me, 7 and 8 from the current ordinance, just to make it clear, make it easy then, and be comparable to other places in the county. And obviously, I'm not sure who can speak on staff, whether those two things are different than other places in the county. And David, I'm not sure if that was...
No, actually, I have a separate.
Is yours
Okay.
separate item?
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
separate
Mr. Atkinson, are you going to comment on those two suggestions, please?
Sure.
So good afternoon. Just so I understand, you want me to confirm that those are not required in the rest of the county?
That would be my first, because I went back and looked at them, trying to figure out if they
Right.
were included or not included. So yes.
So those two are not required in the rest of the county currently?
Okay.
Is that it?
So that's the specific answer. If we get into building codes and how they apply and all the background into this, it's a very long, drawn-out discussion. So for now, unless there are other specific questions relating to building codes and the uses related to short-term rentals, that's it.
So these two items, there's no objection yet from the executive staff. We have one more reading. There's no objection to amending the ordinance and removing those.
Staff has no objection.
Yeah, we have no objection, but we do want to make it clear for the record, just because we want to make sure everybody understands the structure that's applying for the short-term rental permit must meet the code and must have a certificate of occupancy. You can't bring in a storage building and say, oh, well, I want that to be a short-term rental.
Yeah, right.
That is not allowed.
I think everybody's pretty clear on that, but if that language has to be inserted, then that should go in there. Okay, is that the end of it, Mr. Lawson?
That is for me, yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion on his suggestions for amendments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Sorry, was there a, I was going to have his amendment first, then treat his. So I'll call the question. All those, anybody objecting to the amendment that Mr. Lawson is suggesting? Are there any objections?
Was it second?
Sorry.
It was
Yes,
second?
Mr. Ball followed me.
Yeah, it was second.
So I'll ask the question again. Any objections? Hearing no objections, that motion passes to amend the ordinance that way. Mr. Bartholomew, you have some amendment suggestions?
Yeah, make a motion to amend B328 and B330B1 and remove the specific language in cases where what is it? Give me 1 second. In cases where special use approval is required, the Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBOA, may establish an appropriate rental limit as a condition of approval after conducting the public hearing and finding that conditions exist, making such a limitation necessary. I think that's going back to, somebody had commented about putting rental caps on there. I think we need to take that out. I don't think that's proper for them to be putting rental caps.
That applies to everywhere else in the county.
It's in everywhere.
That is the current language countywide. Now, if you all want to do it, I would recommend that you do it countywide so that we're consistent, not treating DeFusky Island different than everywhere else.
Well, this ordinance is going to have an effect.
Second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This this motion will, this ordinance will have effect countywide anyway, won't it?
It will not. It's only for
just specifically for DeFusky.
DeFusky Island has its own zoning code.
So there'll be two ordinances in the county dealing with
There's
short-term rentals?
Because
Or
we
there'll
have
be 20?
because we have the DeFusky Island Code and the community preservation districts and the community development code, there are several zoning codes that deal with short-term rentals in the county.
Anything further from the executive staff on Mr. Bartholomew's suggestion?
No, I mean, we just, you know, I do not support that. I think you need to give the zoning board of appeals the right to say, hey, this number changes the character of this neighborhood, and we're not going to allow any more in this neighborhood. That's the purpose of doing a special exception process and have the public hearing.
Okay. Any further discussion from the panel here?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I concur with what our administrator says, because I've seen this happen in other areas where entire neighborhood will be short-term rentals. And that's the reason for this in here. And I know City of Beaufort tries to enforce it too. I'm not sure about the town of Port Royal, but I will not vote for that amendment.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Cunningham. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, I actually think David's kind of spot on. And I know it's not the same across the county, and I really don't think it has to be because of the nature of Defusky. It is a specific island, an island that we're about to invest $10 to $15 million on for a docking station. For that island to be successful, to actually get back some type of return for the rest of our taxpayers, I'm not too worried about the limitations on short-term rentals, to be honest. We've invested in that community. If people decide to purchase houses and they meet the codes that we put in place, I don't have a problem with them being rented out. If people decide to leave Defusky and the house sells and the new owner decides to apply for these permits, then they've got that right to do it. But I don't believe we should be limiting rights. I think we've invested heavily into this island. We're about to invest more. And for this island to continue to be a tourist destination, which ultimately, that's what they have advertised over years, maybe not today during this specific one, but they've come to us multiple times about the tourists and how it's becoming a hot spot for tourists. This allows that to continue to go in that direction.
Any further discussion? Mr. Bartholomew, will you just state your motion again, please? So
Yeah,
clear
sure.
on it?
It's a motion to amend section B328 and B330B1 and remove the specific language in cases where special use approval is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may establish an appropriate rental limit as a condition of approval after conducting the public hearing and finding that conditions exist making such limitation necessary. And so essentially striking that language from the code.
Because that is establishing a cap in the historic district. Right. Okay. Sarah, will you call the roll on this, please?
Okay. Councilmember Bartholomew?
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham?
Yes.
Councilmember Tavernick?
No.
Councilmember Reeds?
No.
Councilmember Lawson?
Mark Lawson, yes.
Councilmember Howard?
No.
Councilmember Glover?
No.
Councilmember Dawson?
No.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Vice Chair McKellen?
No.
The motion fails 4-6.
Okay, so we have now I'll call the question on item 15, which is the second reading of the, sorry? Oh, sorry, I missed that. Thank you, Brian. I'm so happy you're here. Is there anyone here who wishes to talk about this item? We have, it's a second reading, and of course, there's always a public hearing. I should have done that first, and I apologize. But if there's anyone here who wishes to address this matter, just please raise your hand. What a shock to see you raise your hand. So come on up, Mr. Yarborough.
Okay, so the reason I'd like to address this is basically Defusky Island, for those that came and visited Defusky Island, you must realize that it is vastly underdeveloped. There's huge spaces between the houses there and everything. And I believe that striking this part of the language would take away the weaponization of this process.
Wait a minute, striking what part of the language?
The B3, we're talking about the...
Removing the caps?
Yes, removing the caps. Basically, that's one of the reasons that we have been so, we have been here is because we feel that that part of the code will be weaponized by just a few people on Defusky to be able to basically, take away people's dreams of coming there.
So you're in favor of the caps?
No, I am strictly against the caps.
And I think his motion removes the caps.
Well, no, it already failed.
It already failed. So that's the reason. The reason that DAR has been organized is because we feel that that specific part of the code will allow your code to be weaponized against a few people that want to come to Defusky and have a dream of building a house over there.
Okay.
That is. That's a big part of what we feel is wrong with the code. How can I explain? Like I said, if you have people that come to Defusky, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building a house, a couple years in the building process, and then they have their neighbors tell them that, right and say they don't want them to be able to have a short-term rental there, that's what they're counting on to offset the enormous costs of building on Defusky. I mean, we're talking 2 to 3 times the amount of building costs on Defusky that there is on the mainland. And furthermore, I would suggest that these big investors that we keep talking about, that you're afraid of coming to Defusky and making these multiple units and everything, why would they come to Defusky, spend 2 or 3 times of investment on Defusky, spend years building when they can do the same thing on the mainland for a third of the price, a third of the time, and be able to rent their houses twice the amount of time on Defusky? It's just, it's crazy. That's why we're against this. We don't want to turn neighbor against neighbor on Defusky, and we believe that the striking of the language, such as Mr. Bartholomew suggested, would take away that.
Okay.
They
failed here. It's the second reading. There's another reading on this before it becomes final. That will take place July 10th.
I very much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks. Please, Ms. Coulter.
Again, for those of you who came to Defusky, you saw how remote it is.
Could you use the microphone, please?
And for those that came to Defusky, you could see that it is remote, and it is a challenge to build there, and it is a challenge to live there. The full-time residents also made that decision and those challenges, and we met the challenges. To go to the grocery store, if you ride the public boat, it takes 6 hours to go to the grocery store. 6 hours. So the people that live there full-time have made the commitment and want to live there because we love it there. And the idea of, you know, the idea is balance. You want a balance in your neighborhood. And whenever the teeter-totter moves so that you've got more rentals than you have actual homeowners, then that changes the whole neighborhood and character of the island. Yes, the houses are separated and they're far apart. Many of the lots are 5 acres, some are much smaller, some are an acre. You have to have, currently, the current code says you have to have an acre to build a piece of property there. Now, there are some lots that are much smaller, and those, I would imagine, you could still build on. But the nature of the island, again, when you have full-time residents versus an influx of people coming and going, these are not just rentals, long-term rentals, these are businesses that are coming into this rural neighborhood. I applaud you for voting that down, and I would hope that you would vote it down the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Anybody else? Okay. Would you resume calling the roll for a vote? Oh, Logan's? I don't know why I don't look up there. Sorry.
You're all good. It's on me. It's my fault. I just want to remind the council and the public that we have made a lot of progress on this ordinance, and that happened with us delaying a vote originally for them to be able to have conversations and come up with a form of agreement.
Okay, I'm going to scan the whole room. I think that's it. Did you call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Lawson?
Mark Lawson, yes.
Councilmember Glover?
Yes.
Councilmember Tabernick?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Dawson?
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham?
No.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
No.
Vice Chair McEllen?
Yes.
The motion passes 8-2.
Thank you. And the third reading will be scheduled for July 10th. Okay, the next item is item number 17, which is the first reading of an ordinance for a zoning, first reading, this has been amended. It's the first reading of an ordinance for a request for a zoning map amendment for 502 acres located at 288 Delamo Road to be removed from the Cultural Protection Overlay boundary of St. Helena. To remind everyone, I'll be seeking a motion for that amended agenda item, and then we will have a discussion, and I will call the vote. When the vote is called, a majority of yes will allow this matter to proceed to a second reading for further consideration to allow the acres to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary. Majority vote of no defeats the motion, and the property remains within the cultural protection overlay boundary. If anyone has any questions with regard to that, we can go into executive session and meet with our attorney, who will explain that. Okay, I'm going to call the question.
You don't have a motion.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I may have a motion for the amended item number 17.
Oh, all right, I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Are we going into executive session? Is that what you said?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Is there any discussion?
I mean, if you want me to indulge the conversation, I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people just stood up and talked about us following the laws and following the rules. We changed the laws during this process, but we shouldn't even been the conversation. And that leads me to the point in the statement I just said on Defusky. We originally delayed a vote on Defusky to get more information and to allow time for conversation. We're here today and we're denying a delay in the vote at the beginning of this meeting because people are worn out and tired of discussing Pine Island. But the issue I have with that is we should have never been discussing Pine Island. If the conversation we've had for the last 4 to 5 months is about the CPO and not Pine Island, it is not the developer's fault or the landowner's fault that they were tethered together. This is the first time that Pine Island itself has been brought to County Council. Any other conversations we've had before that regarding Pine Island should not have a bearing on any of us 11 County Council members because that was never been in front of our desk before. Now, they were put together because of the conservative groups or the community or the developer or whatever it might be, point fingers however you want. But as County Council members, this is the first time it's come across our desk. It looks the way that this is going to be turned down, which is going to, send us into a whole nother thing. So with that said, I just hope that our citizens are prepared for the increase in the taxes, because we're going to need the revenue for those roads when those houses come in, because if we turn this down, we are forcing 166. I hope that our taxpayers are ready to use our public funded dollars for the legal battle that we're going to be put into over and over and over again. And lastly, I spent some time looking at everybody's campaigns over the years. All 11 of us at some point ran on either growth management or responsible growth in our campaign. Us turning this down without having conversations with the property owner is doing the exact opposite of that. It is not a secret we will be adding traffic flow to our roads or more more density onto our fire and EMS by allowing 166. It's not a secret that we'll be adding more rooftops. It's not a secret we'll be adding to the waterways. That's not responsible growth. Responsible growth is getting in a room and having those conversations and coming up with the best outcome of County Council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul.
Follow you.
I'd just like to ditto what Logan said. Being a new member on council, I just don't feel that this whole thing was treated fairly. Mr. Tropiano only got to speak for 12 minutes, while everybody else got to speak longer. And I don't know, I do want to say one thing to Mr. Glover. Mr. Glover took me out last January to the private roads. I had never been out to St. Helena before. And I've lived here 11 years, but I live over in the other side of town. And I asked Mr. Glover to take me out to the private roads because Mr. McGillen worked very hard last year trying to come up with a solution, maybe getting firemen out there or, getting volunteers out there to fix the private roads. So Mr. Glover was so kind and he took me out there and I couldn't believe what I saw. You took me down the one road that we turned left on. I don't know what road that was, but I get emotional every time I think about it.
Probably Tecumseh Lane.
What was it?
Tecumseh Lane.
That was my first, okay. So anyway, we came back here. I went home and I wrote letters to people I know in DC and New York. 2 weeks later, Mackenzie Scott sent $2 million to the Penn Center. And I didn't know at the time that Martin Luther King wrote his speech there. I lived in the DC area, and I didn't live far from when he made that speech that day. And I remember it very clearly. I want to mention something else. Senator Davis was standing here, I think, last council meeting. He was able to retrieve $34 million for our county. It's my understanding that St. Helena is only going to get 50,000 of the 34 million. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We have a man in this audience today that has offered $250,000 of his charitable foundation to the community of St. Helena. And you keep saying no to him, and no to him, and no to him. So that's all I have to say.
Any further discussion?
Mr.
Glover.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, thank you for the riding and visiting St. Helena, and I'll be glad to take anybody to ride around St. Helena. That's the nature of St. Helena. I think I took Chairman Passman there a couple weeks ago, and one of the things he said is that we need to keep St. Helena rural. He loved the farming community, et cetera, et cetera. There are problems on St. Helena, there's no question about that. One of the things I would say to this board, this council, is that I've met with the developer several times, and every time I've met with him, after about 6 times, he said to me, you know, I will benefit you X amount of dollars, et cetera, et cetera. And what I said to him was that take money off the table. So money is not an issue here. And I said to him, if this project's gonna go, it goes on its own merit. And that's where I have been. I have not changed at all. The community, whether I want to support him, support the community, it doesn't really matter. The community for me has spoken, and they basically have said, we do not want to change our lifestyle, and changing our lifestyle means that if a golf course comes there today, if we change the mapping of this, of the CPO and allow for that to happen, what will stop that from happening next time? And once that precedent has been established, it opens the door down the road for the same thing to happen again and again and again. And there's no way that you can stop it. The precedent has been established. The community is saying no to this because of what that lifestyle. Nothing's wrong with golfing. My brother loves to play golf. I don't play golf. I've been out there, and when I hit the ball, it goes from one fairway to the other. But so I left it alone. Now I bowl.
You bowl?
And, you know, so that's more my style. But anyway, the community has basically spoken, and it's not really one of supporting or not supporting. It's the question becomes, do we uphold the comprehensive plan that has been set forth by the community? We met several times to reinforce the comp plan for 2040. This council was going to move forward with a proposal to approve the comp plan. The community said, hold it, we have not engaged yet. And this council stopped the process of approving the comp plan, allowed for the public meeting to take place. 3 meetings were set, one in Bluffton at Buckwalter, one at Burton Wells, and one at St. Helena Elementary School. The community had another chance to engage. And what came out of that in 2022 was the comp plan that we have now. And if I remember staff saying to me, the community never really changed the plan. It enhanced the plan at that time. And then in May of this year, the CPO came forth and they further enhanced that plan. We, We are voting to uphold the comp plan, and I ask for a unanimous decision on doing just that, just like we did in Bluffton 2-3 weeks ago, and how we're going to do further later on for the resider in Burton. We need to uphold the comp plan. The community has spoken. If the community wants to change it, then let the community change. But this council should not do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question with a roll call. Before I do that, I'm going to read it again so everyone's clear. It's the first reading of an ordinance for a request for a zoning map amendment for 502 acres located at 288 Delamo Road to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary on St. Helena. A majority vote of yes will allow this matter to proceed to a second reading for further consideration to allow the 502 acres to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary. A majority vote of no defeats the motion, and the property remains within the cultural protection overlay boundary. By the way, if that majority vote of no occurs, that does not prevent the developer from continuing to talk to the community over any period of time to see if an understanding and an agreement can be made that would satisfy the community with what's going to happen on those 502 acres. This is not an act that ends in perpetuity. There are always the ability to change things going forward. But for the moment, this will decide whether the property stays in the CPO or leaves the CPO. Any questions on the voting?
Actually, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
you were too quick for me. I was actually going to see if we could move into an executive session for the receipt of legal advice prior to taking the
I'll
vote.
second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
For what?
For what?
The receipt of legal advice?
Yeah, about what?
Just about everything we're doing, because Logan brought up a good point. This is the first time this has actually been in front of us.
Why need to take a vote for an executive session?
I need to understand the legality of it at this time, because what is the?
Well, that's why I want to talk to legal.
Yeah, the motion as stated for the receipt of legal advice is an appropriate motion. He does not have to, and he does not have to state on the record what legal advice he wants to
No, right, I
seek.
understand. So he's made a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice on this particular ordinance. Do I have a second for that move to executive session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? I take a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bartholomew,
Yes.
Councilmember Cunningham,
Yes.
Councilmember Tabernick,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeds,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Mark Lawson, no.
Councilmember Howard,
No.
Councilmember Glover,
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, this is unlike the British House of Parliament, where everybody's encouraged to yell at each other. We don't do that here.
Councilmember
So, I
Dawson,
think Mr. Glover is sure of his vote, which was a
Yes.
yes to go
Yes.
into executive session. Okay.
Mr. Dawson.
Councilmember Dawson,
No.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Vice Chair McKellen,
No.
6 to go into executive session, 4 no, the motion passes.
Okay, will you all excuse us? We're going to go in executive session in the executive conference room. It might be time for you to take a 5-minute break, and then you're welcome to come back for the end of the story. and maintain your dignity. You're doing so great. I can see what it says.
Yeah, we're good with the signs.
Thank you all very much for waiting patiently. We do really appreciate it, and we had a very good discussion. I think we reached a...
Broadcasting is pulling you up.
I think we've reached a decision here, and we'll be able to take a vote, and then we will give you some time if you wish to leave, but you're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, which will probably go on into the night. Okay, so just to refresh everybody's recollection on this matter, are we all back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe and Logan are on.
Okay.
He's on there.
This is a first reading of an ordinance for a request for a zoning map amendment for 502 acres located at 288 Delamo Road to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary on St. Helena. The majority vote of yes will allow this matter to proceed to a second reading for further consideration to allow the 502 acres to be removed from the cultural protection overlay boundary. Majority vote of no defeats the motion, and the property remains within the cultural protection overlay boundary. And as I said before, that's not the end of the matter. The developer still owns the property and is free to continue whatever he wishes to do with regard to reaching out to the community. That's not a part of the motion, that's just a fact. Okay. Any advice from council, or can I proceed with
I have one piece of advice for you, that as soon as this vote is over with, that you immediately recess and ask folks to exit the room as quickly as possible so we can get out on with the rest of our agenda.
You needn't worry about that.
Thank you.
I've got it.
Okay.
Council, I'm ready to go? Okay, so everybody's clear on what we're voting on. Rob, could you be kind enough to call the roll?
I will. Councilmember Tavernick?
No.
Councilmember Howard?
No.
Councilmember Reeds?
No.
Councilmember Lawson?
Mark Lawson, no.
Councilmember Glover?
No.
Councilmember Dawson?
No.
Councilmember Cunningham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
No.
Vice Chair McGillen?
No.
The motion fails. 2-8.
Thank you for that. I'm going to give you some time to exit quietly.
Does that mean we're not going to have a packed chamber anymore, or what?
Yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You know, standing on the side of the community, it's their choice.
Did you like it? Yeah. Oh, I don't know that people would call me that, but thank you for the compliment.
That's him.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
For or against?
Hey, Leanne, don't you have a ferry to catch?
I told you about that. Fine.
Don't you have a ferry to catch?
Yes. So in other words, all the rest of them.
We could do that.
Oh, number 10?
Oh, okay.
Oh, number 10.
From the heart.
Because I'm not going to make
Are they
any
considered
questions.
Green Ferry.
What does that got to do with it?
And I have tons of notes on this.
But if I'm right on 16.
Okay, if you're going to be leaving the room, I would really appreciate that you leave. We're happy to have you stay, but we certainly understand if you'd like to leave. If you're having conversations, I'd appreciate it if you take them out into the hallway so that we can continue. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Hey, Arnold, you forgot your sign.
Are those yours too? Over there?
Okay.
Okay, so we are now moving back to item number 10, which is a time-sensitive item originating from the June 26th Public Facilities and Safety Committee. It's a first reading of an ordinance amending Ordinance 2022/45 by removing the property located at 68 Helmsman Way with TMS number R552-010-0000309 and other matters related thereto. Is anyone going to be addressing that for us, Mr. Greenway?
Only if you need us to.
We just did in committee.
I just wanted to know if anybody has a question about it that needs to be answered. Apparently not. So may I have a motion for a first reading on that matter? Sorry? Is that you, Logan? Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
A second with Mr. Bartholomew. Is there any discussion on this matter? There's no discussion. I would like to move this forward without objection. Are there any objections on this matter? No objections, matter passes. Item number 11, time-sensitive item originating from Public Facilities and the Safety Committee, approval of a resolution to approve the use of a transportation impact fee for a contract to WM Roebuck for the construction of a temporary wood pole traffic signal at the intersection of US 278 and Cross Street Drive, Gateway Drive, Windmill Harbor, using SCDOT's statewide contract with an amount up to $500,000. May I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion, Mr.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? With no discussion, I would like to pass this forward without any objection. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, this matter is approved. Item number 12, a time-sensitive item from Public Safety and the Public Facilities and Safety Committee, approval of a resolution to approve transportation impact fees to Mr. Roebuck for construction of a mast arm intersection at Bluffton Parkway, Flay Creek Drive and River Ridge Drive. Fiscal impact $384,000. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second?
Second it.
Ms. Brown was second. Sarah? Any discussion? No discussion. I would like to pass this without objection. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, item number 12 passes. Number 13.
Chairman, I'd just like to say...
sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that's the best use, this is the best use of impact fee money.
Thank you very much. I agree with you 100%.
Oh, really? Okay.
Item 13, public hearing and a second reading of an ordinance appropriating proceeds and interest from the 2017 General Obligation Bond Anticipation Note to design, engineer, construct, and equip a joint fire EMS station in Sun City and to defray costs associated with the establishment of a permanent embarkation location for the Daufuskie Island Ferry and other matters related thereto. This is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to speak to this? Anyone from Daufuskie wish to speak to this? No? Okay. May I have a motion for that, please?
I would love to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'd like to pass this without objection. Is there any objection? Hearing none, this matter passes. Thank you very much. Public hearing and second reading of an ordinance authorizing the county administrator to execute documents for the sale of real property with TMS number R600-009-000000340, also known as Camp St. Mary's, to the Beaufort County Rural and Critical Lands Program. Is anyone here to address the issue of the public hearing for the transfer of this property, purchase of this property? Is the language in there, Eric, the way you exactly wanted it? That cover all of the things that we talked about? Okay. Is there any further discussion? No discussion? Anyone objecting? Sorry, Mr. Cunningham.
Yeah, just the same statement that I said before. It's not about putting it or selling it to them, but I believe we could have used this in another transaction that we have discussed to bring much needed baseball fields and softball fields to Bluffton.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments? Hearing none, I would like to pass this. Do you want to make a comment? What?
We need a motion.
Is that a motion yet?
Yeah, it's motion and second.
Somebody motioned it.
Yeah, I didn't?
You went to public hearing, which is okay, but...
Okay.
It's getting late.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Will someone second it, please?
I'll second it.
Anyone? Thank you,
Yeah.
George. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay,
Just
and
keep it
there was
going.
no public, okay, no public hearing. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I voted yes the first time, I would vote no at the second.
Okay.
Because to me, it didn't make sense, because the county owns the property. The county owns the property, right? But we're going to sell it to critical rural lands, right? And then they're going to make a park, is that right?
Yes, use the money to make a park.
Why don't we just make a park and not sell it and whatever?
It's a matter, well, I think that was explained, it's a matter of adequate funding for the operation. That's essentially what it is.
Oh,
It's
the
going to be a
funding?
transfer of funds,
Okay.
so we can
All
use
right.
those funds for the park.
Okay, all right.
No, I'll just see if there's any objections. Any objection to this? Logan, have an objection? Brown, do you have an
Yes,
objection?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
It's okay. You have an objection, Ms. Brown?
Yes, I do.
Okay, 2 objections, Brown and Mr. Cunningham. Any further objections? Hearing none, this matter is passed. Thank you very much. So now we've done item 15. We don't have to do it again. We're at item 16. First reading of an ordinance for a zoning map amendment rezoning request for 21 acres. A lot of numbers. Located at Laurel Bay Road and Rosita Road Extension from T2 Rural, TR2, to Industrial SI.
So
Yeah.
I will make a motion to deny
You will,
the rezoning.
I will second that.
Let's do it.
yeah, well, okay,
Do it the way we
okay,
did
no, I get it.
You
Yeah.
voted
We're
down.
gonna, these have to be positive motions, not negative motions. So
All right.
we're going to make a motion for this to occur. May I have that motion?
I'll make the motion to put
Thank
it on
you.
the table.
I'll second for sense of discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I will be voting against this rezoning.
Thank you. Any,
If I might,
yes?
yeah, this property is in my district, and to change it from T2 rural to a commercial district, you would be putting a commercial district in the middle of a residential area. So I would ask all of us to vote this down.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. Is this the property of Laurel Bay that has the storage units already there?
No.
That's the opposite side of the road.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Side road?
Yeah.
And
Okay,
there were
sorry.
people who spoke against it during,
Right.
that lived in the
Yeah, I
neighborhood.
remember watching that. I just wanted to make sure.
The recommendation of Community Service and Land Use was to deny the zoning map amendment request. Would you call a roll on this one, please?
Councilmember Tavernick?
No.
Councilmember Cunningham?
No.
Councilmember Reeds?
No.
Councilmember Lawson?
Mark Lawson, no.
Councilmember Howard?
No.
Councilmember Glover?
No.
Councilmember Dawson?
No?
Councilmember Brown?
No.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
No.
Vice Chair McKellen?
Nope.
The motion fails.
Thank you. We've already done
17.
item 17, and we'll move on to 18. First reading of an ordinance authorizing the Fripp Island Public Service District, South Carolina, to issue not exceeding $5,250,000 of general obligation bonds subject to voter approval, providing for the publication of notice of the said findings, and authorization and providing for other matters related thereto. Can I do 19 at the same time?
Please do.
Number 19.
Yes, please do.
Approval. We have a hungry man here. We have approval of a resolution offering, one's an ordinance and one's a resolution. Can I do them together? Okay.
Right.
For approval of a resolution ordering a public hearing to be held on the issuance of not exceeding $5,250,000 aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of the Fripp Island Public Service District, providing for the publication of the notice of such public hearing and other matters relating thereto. So I may have a motion on the
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
first on the ordinance and
I'll
also a
second.
motion on the resolution.
I'll
So
second.
move.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I would like to pass these 2 items without objection. Any objections? No objections, the matters both pass. Item number 20, approval of a resolution authorizing the unincorporated parts of Beaufort County to join with the town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort to continue membership in the Low Country Area Transportation Study, LATS Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, and to adopt the geographical boundaries.
I'd like to make that motion,
Thank you. It's a motion for approval of resolution, seconded by Mr. Glover. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, pass this without objection. Is there any objection? No. Seeing no objections, this matter passes. Approval of item number 21, approval of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to enter into temporary custody agreement with the town of Sullivan's Island for an ordnance delivery table to be installed and displayed I didn't know where that was going. At Fort Fremont Preserve.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Anybody objects? No objection. This matter is passed. Item 22, approval
Chairman,
of...
I just want to say this by, Stephanie is not here, but the Friends of Fort Fremont is really doing a great job of trying to restore and to put in place what that fort was all about, and this will just add to that presentation and stuff. So
thank you, Mr. Glover. That was a very good observation, and I have no doubt that the ordnance table will be displayed appropriately.
Yes.
As opposed to an ordnance table, which is what I thought they were saying. Item 22, approval of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Beaufort County Open Land Trust for maintenance of county-owned property known as the Blocker Field Extension, R300-015-000-076B, 4 zeros. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Where is this Blocker Field?
It's on the Sea Island Parkway in North St. Helens. You go out, there's a coffee shop on the left. Blocker Field is the property.
Why are we buying this land?
No, it's
a purchase of the railroad.
It's maintaining.
It's what? I'm sorry.
We already own it. We've already bought it.
Oh, we already bought it.
It's maintenance. It's a maintenance contract.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, yes, I apologize.
Okay, I don't have to start over. Is there any
No,
further
you don't have
discussion? Anybody object to this? Hearing no objections, this matter passes. Item 23, approval of a resolution authorizing county administrator to initiate the BCAT 3 grant program to assist with broadband efforts in Beaufort County, which is an extremely important program. May I have a motion to approve this
So moved,
resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have one comment. I just want to reiterate again, I hope we give some consideration to children getting this who need it for school. Again, they're already behind, and I don't know how you do that. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but we should make that a priority.
Just for council's knowledge and information, I have a meeting set up on Friday with the Vice President of Hargray to discuss such issues. This program will be used for providing services for people that are having to pay to get across ravines and things like that. But I'm gonna have that discussion with Hargray on Friday.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Discussion ends?
Yes.
Pass this without objection. Any objections from anyone? Hearing none, this matter passes. We're now on item 24, which is item 5. You want to go back there, Tab, and tell us what that is?
Yes, if everybody would look at page 180, so you know what I'm talking about in your packet, because I know some of you looked at me like I was weird.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, so if you look at page 180, I'm asking to amend the ordinance. Look at number 5. It would, amended would say EMS and fire facility. The county agrees to use its best efforts to plan and begin construction of an EMS and fire facility on the cooler track, the property or the donated property on or before June 30th, 2028. So I just added fire facility.
Yeah, that was a matter that was requested by the seller, and as a result of that, there's been a great accommodation in price below the appraised value, so we think that it's a good idea to agree to it.
The question I have, Mr. Chairman, this is the Bluffton Fire Department, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, it should be, right?
And the closest fire station down to that area would be where?
William Pope, I think.
Are you serious?
Unless I'm wrong. William Pope?
You know, talking about the zone.
Yeah, you're correct, William Pope.
Is it William Pope? Yeah. That's pretty far away. Even though they can speed, yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, speaking with the Bluffton Fire Department board and the representative we have on there, this is something that they really want to push forward, get another one out there. My question has to go with, can we meet that timeline of the 2028 for funding?
Well, first to the proximity, so yeah, William Pope, the one outside of Sun City. Y'all are gonna have to rename the Sun City one because that's, when you have a new Sun City one, you can't call that one Sun City anymore.
Whatever the chief wants to call it.
That's right. But they do have an MOA with Jasper County, so it's actually being serviced right now off of Argent Boulevard. So that is the closest, so they have a working MOA on that response time. Second
Is
question.
Kalawasi serviced by Argent Boulevard too, or they have their own?
Kalawasi.
Can I stop you just 1 second? Yes, sir.
Can you get a motion and second if they have any discussion?
Sure.
I thought we did already.
Well,
I made the motion.
I thought she did make the motion.
Somebody has seconded.
I'll
I
second it.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so you made the motion, and you've
We're
just
a mess.
seconded it. Now we are in discussion. Thank you, Brian.
The question was really, who serviced like places like Kalawasi?
The Bluffton Fire District.
And so that comes from Argent Boulevard. Okay.
And I think the other one was on the funding in the 2028. So obviously, we don't control the Bluffton Fire District, but they do have it on their CIP over the next several years for this to be one of their highest priority projects, as well as EMS, one of.
Sun City.
Yeah, one of. So, and then as far as EMS, this is in coordinating with Mr. Robinson, this is one of our areas of need as well. So that we're working through funding to figure that out. That is the plan.
Any further discussion? May we pass this without objection?
Yes.
Hearing no objections, matter passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Brittany. Going now into citizen comments, item number 25. Mr. New, just remember, Mr. New, we've already taken action here, so don't encourage us to do that.
Well, first, I would sincerely thank everybody on council. And the initial prevailing philosophy on St. Helena was that, yeah, we would have the fight, but in the end, the developers always win. Didn't happen. So I commend you all. During this process, during this battle, something else has percolated over the last 6 months. And over the last almost 2 years, our administrator has repeatedly and openly advocated for the developer of Pine Island. Now we learn the administrator's invited guest at his club's golf tournament was the developer. Given the developer's continued threats to sue the county, his decision to invite him can only be characterized as brazen, ignorant, or stupid.
Keep it up,
Over the
Mr.
last
New.
2
Keep it up,
years.
Mr. New, and I'm going to censure you and tell you to stop insulting people with your comments. And if you can't do that, I'm going to ask you to leave the room.
Fact is fact. Over the last 2 years.
No, it's opinion. And I'm asking you to temper that if you're going to continue.
No problem. Over the last 2 years, the administrator has repeatedly held closed-doors meetings with the developer, but has never made any attempt whatsoever to talk to the people of St. Helena. Not once. His disdain for the people of St. Helena is palpable. An administrator needs to represent the interest of all the citizens of Beaufort County. This administrator, by word and deed, has not, and as such, I humbly suggest, in the interest of all the people of Beaufort County, that the administrator's contract be terminated effective immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. New. Anyone else wish to make citizen comments? Ma'am, are you here for some comments? No? Okay. Okay, well then, this wonderful session will come to an end. So Mr. Glover can go home.
And I heard what Mr. New said. Let me just say, on behalf of Mr. Greenway, we don't see eye to eye on things, but I would say that as far as representing the whole entire county, I think he's doing what I consider a good job, the best job he can, because of the diversity in this community. But you know, so I want to say that. I think he's trying to represent this community, and there are a lot of diversity in this community. I can tell you that for me, I've yet to have him lie to me. So I gotta keep supporting him in that regard and stuff.
And may I say something too?
Certainly.
I agree with you, Mr. Goldberg. It's not against the law to play golf with somebody. I'm sorry, but it's not against the law for someone to play golf with somebody else. But it is against the law, whoever sent that email out or that screenshot, they violated someone's privacy. They violated, you know, member contact information. That's all private information. Nobody should have ever sent that out. It's not against the law to play golf, but it's certainly against the law to violate someone's privacy.
Oh, yes. Oh, lovely. Come to the podium. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Sure. My name is Alexandra Lanza, and I live on Coffin Point. And actually, I've been here before when there were some questions about short-term housing on Coffin Point, which I would tell you is still a very open issue, as you denied my neighbors on my right their permit that evening, which was absolutely, I think, the correct thing to do. But my neighbors on my left are still actively every weekend having short-term renters. So it's very weird on Coffin Point. But regardless, I just wanted to point out that this was new information that I just heard, and I understand your point, Ms. Brown, but I do want to say it perhaps isn't against the law, but I think there's something about doing the right thing. And I just think, let's not lose sight of doing the right thing in our personal life and in our professional life. That's all. Just know where your ground is.
Good advice. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Oh, Mr. Cunningham,
You keep
the
forgetting.
last word.
I don't need the last word. I'll leave that to you. I'm horrible at closing. I'll just say, as the person that's been going back and forth about the CBO and Pine Island, and however you want to label it, I've gone at it multiple times with Eric over this, just like I have with other council members. So the opinion that was stated, I completely agree with. I felt like he was more against my belief than any other. So maybe it's subjective to our own personal viewpoints, with that said. So Eric, I applaud you handling this on both sides of the aisle, and I appreciate the banter throughout it as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Call for adjournment.
Yes, sir. Call for adjournment. It's adjourned.
Are you sure?
Thank you all very much. Thank you all.